I'm 13 WMAZ meteorologist Alex Forbes. We just got the 11 a.m. advisory here on Hurricane Ian. Winds a bit stronger now at 80 miles an hour. The storm not too far away from the Grand Cayman Islands, continuing to move towards the northwest at 13 miles an hour. Take a look at the visible satellite imagery on this thing this morning. We've clearly gotten its act together in the past 24 hours. You can see the way the air is flowing into it, beginning to get that shape to the storm as it continues to move towards the northwest. Let's take a look at the new cone on this. Run this through the next 5 days. So in the short term, becoming a major hurricane, the rapid intensification process continues. But then notice as we get to midweek, here we are Wednesday at 8 a.m., Thursday at 8 a.m., Friday at 8 a.m., beginning to slow down as the storm begins to weaken. A Category 4 down to a Category 2, eventually to a tropical storm as it comes ashore thanks to some wind shear there in the Gulf of Mexico. But nonetheless, whatever Ian is as it moves towards the north, it does appear to be moving towards central Georgia. Somewhere Saturday morning, right along this white line, is where the center of the storm will be, likely a newly weakened tropical depression as it moves through. Hurricane warnings in effect for parts of western Cuba down towards the Grand Cayman Islands. Do have tropical storm warnings in effect to the east of the hurricane warning there in Cuba, as well as the Florida Keys. And take a look at Florida now. A lot of the southern part of the state and a tropical storm watch, even a hurricane watch in and around Sarasota and up towards Tampa Bay. Now the models in fairly good agreement, at least over the next few days, where this is going to go. Notice they begin to diverge a little bit by the time we get to that Wednesday, Thursday time frame. A handful still want to take them on the Florida peninsula there. Others keeping it out over the warm Gulf of Mexico. And that's what the European's doing, what the GFS is doing. So our two main global models. But nonetheless, notice how they cluster right here in central Georgia. That's why our confidence is just a bit higher that we're going to see impacts here. Now, where the storm tracks exactly is going to have ramifications on the types of impacts we see. If it tracks just a little bit to the west of central Georgia, of course, that puts us on the west side, or excuse me, on the east side, and that means we're going to feel it a bit more. We have a bit of a tropical tornado threat. Maybe the wind's just a bit stronger. But as we take a look at that brown line, the pink line, notice it's going to be on the opposite side, which means we wouldn't feel it quite as bad, still impactful, but not as bad as it could be. The GFS ensembles, something else I tend to look at a lot, something that's catching my eye. Notice a lot of these white lines extending out towards Panama City over towards the Mississippi coast. A lot of these different runs of the GFS is showing the storm either over central Georgia or to the west of central Georgia. That's going to be a trend I'm watching for in the next couple of days. All right, let's talk timing on this. This is the operational run of the GFS. This is what we show you a lot here on 13 WMAZ. Notice the rain beginning in our far southern counties early in the morning on Friday. Here we are Friday afternoon. The heaviest part of the storm still down towards the south. So an all-day Friday rain event, and that's not even the bulk of the storm. That's just the beginning of it. Play this forward into the overnight hours into Saturday, the center of the storm, somewhere over central Georgia, a weakening storm at that. Play this forward into Saturday afternoon. Rain beginning to taper off down towards the south, but still a steady rainfall in northern central Georgia, say in Macon over towards Milledgeville. Continue to lift towards the north, and we begin to dry out overnight Saturday into Sunday. Here's how this stacks up against the European model. A somewhat similar timetable except for the starting point. The Euro starting it just a bit earlier here, Thursday at 5 p.m. There's the core of the storm down there in the Gulf of Mexico. The core lifts north. We're all in the rainfall here Friday morning. Play this forward through the day on Friday, clearly into the rainfall with no rain relenting. And then as we get into the evening hours, still looking at a steady rain, likely a windy night. Play this forward into Saturday afternoon and evening, still looking at on and off showers in and around central Georgia before we begin to clear out as we get into the overnight hours on Saturday into Sunday. So all of this to say, the GFS and the Euro are in pretty good alignment in terms of the timing, except for that starting point. The GFS obviously having just, or excuse me, the Euro having just a little longer event here in central Georgia. What you need to know here at 11 a.m. on Monday is that Ian is undergoing rapid intensification right now as it moves towards Cuba. The cone will continue to wobble as we just saw in the hours and days ahead, but regardless, wind and rain is likely here for Friday and Saturday in central Georgia.